Hello, friends, and welcome to Jewels of Truth. My name is Daniel Fontenot, and we have been discussing this book, Our Authorized Bible Vindicated, by Benjamin G. Wilkinson, who was the Dean of Theology for Washington Missionary College, now known as Columbia Union College today. During his long years of service to the cause he loved, he also dedicated his life in ministry and study. This work is the culmination of study for many urgent requests he received on this pertinent subject. And basically the thing he is saying in this book is that there are two streams of Bibles. A pure stream which comes from the apostles and a corrupt stream, basically Constantine's Bible, which was half pagan and half Christian. Okay, and this is the Bible that the Catholic Church bases its doctrine on, this corrupt line. It is often claimed by Catholics and the papacy that they gave us our Bible. Yeah, they gave us a Bible, all right, but it was a corrupt Bible. But the pure Bible has remained pure. There are two streams of Bible. Do not become confused in all of this. And whenever, as I've said in other videos, whenever I read the word textus receptus or received text, those are two terms which refer to that pure line of Bibles. The King James Bible is a descendant of the received text, or the textus receptus. Textus receptus is the English form. Received text is the English, of course. But anyway, received text is just the English form of the Latin, I should say. Latin being textus receptus. Okay, so let's continue reading here from this book, Our Authorized Bible Vindicated. 4 Bibles produced under Waldensian influence touched the history of Calvin, that's John Calvin, namely a Greek, a Waldensian vernacular, a French, and an Italian. Calvin himself was led to his great work by Olivetan, a Waldensian. Thus was the Reformation brought to Calvin, that brilliant student of the Paris University. Farel also, a Waldensian, besought him to come to Geneva and open up a work there. Calvin felt that he should labor in Paris. According to Ledger, Calvin recognized a relationship to the Calvins of the Valley of St. Martin, one of the Waldensian valleys. Finally, persecution at Paris and the solicitation of Farel caused Calvin to settle at Geneva, where with visa he brought out an edition of the Textus Receptus, the one the author now uses in his college classrooms as edited by Scrivener. Of Visa, Dr. Edger says that he astonished and confounded the world with the Greek manuscripts he unearthed. This later edition of the received text is in reality a Greek New Testament brought out under Waldensian influence. Unquestionably, the leaders of the Reformation, German, French, and English, were convinced that the received text was the genuine New Testament, not only by its own irresistible history and internal evidence, but also because it matched with the received text which in Waldensian form came down from the days of the apostles. The other 3 Bibles of Waldensian connection were due to the 3 men who were at Geneva with Calvin, or when he died with Beza, his successor, namely Olivetan, Ledger, and Diodati. How readily the 2 streams of descent of the received text through the Greek East and the Waldensian West ran together is illustrated by the meeting of the Olivetan Bible and the received text. Olivetan, one of the most illustrious pastors of the Waldensian valleys, a relative of Calvin, according to Ledger, and a splendid student, translated the New Testament into French. Ledger bore testimony that the Olivetan Bible, which accorded with the Textus Receptus, was unlike the old manuscripts of the papists because they were full of falsification. Later, Calvin edited a second edition of the Olivetan Bible. The Olivetan, in turn, became the basis of the Geneva Bible in English, which was the leading version in England in 1611 when the King James appeared. Diodati, who succeeded Beza in the chair of theology at Geneva, translated the received text into Italian. This version was adopted by the Waldenses, although there was in use at that time a Waldensian Bible in their own peculiar language. This we know because Sir Samuel Morland, under the protection of Oliver Cromwell, received from Ledger the Waldensian New Testament, which now lies in the Cambridge University Library. After the devastating massacre of the Waldenses in 1655, Ledger felt that he should collect and give into the hands of Sir Samuel Morland as many pieces of the ancient Waldensian literature as were available. It is interesting to trace back the Waldensian Bible, which Luther had before him when he translated the New Testament. Yes, Luther had a Waldensian Bible in front of him when he translated the New Testament. And that Bible came from the pure line, from the apostles, okay? It traces back all the way to the apostles. Luther used the Tepla Bible, I guess is how you pronounce it, T-E-P-L, named from Tepla, or Bohemia. This Tepl manuscript represented a translation of the Waldensian Bible into the German, which was spoken before the days of the Reformation. Of this remarkable manuscript, Kumba says, quote, "When the manuscript of Tepl appeared, the attention of the learned was aroused by the fact that the text it presents corresponds word for word with that of the first three editions of the ancient German Bible." Then Louis Keller, an original writer with the decided opinions of a layman and versed in the history of the sects of the Middle Ages, declared the Tepl manuscript to be Waldensian. Another writer, Hermann Haupt, who belongs to the old Catholic party, supported his opinion vigorously. And that's unquote. From Kumba, we also learned that the Tepl manuscript has an origin different from the version adopted by the Church of Rome, that it seems to agree rather with the Latin versions anterior to Jerome, the author of the Vulgate, and that Luther followed it in his translation, which probably is the reason why the Catholic Church reproved Luther for following the Waldenses. Another peculiarity is its small size, which seems to single it out as one of those little books which the Waldensian evangelists carried with them hidden under their rough cloaks. We have, therefore, an indication of how much the Reformation under Luther, as well as Luther's Bible, owed to the Waldenses. Waldensian influence, both from the Waldensian Bibles and from the Waldensian relationships, entered into the King James translation of 1611. That's wonderful to know. Waldensian influence, both from the Waldensian Bibles and from the Waldensian relationships, entered into the King James translation of 1611. Referring to the King James translators, one author speaks thus of a Waldensian Bible they used, quote, "It is known that among modern versions they consulted was an Italian, and though no name is mentioned, there cannot be room for doubt that it was the elegant translation made with great ability from the original scriptures by Giovanni Diodati, which had only recently, in 1607, appeared at Geneva." Unquote. It is therefore evident that the translators of 1611, referring to the King James Version, had before them 4 Bibles which had come under Waldensian influences: the Diodati in Italian, the Olivetan in French, the Lutheran in German, and the Genevan in English. We have every reason to believe that they had access to at least 6 Waldensian Bibles written in the old Waldensian vernacular. Dr. Noland, who had already acquired fame for his Greek and Latin scholarship and researches into Egyptian chronology, was a lecturer of note, spent 20 years to trace back the received text to its apostolic origin. He was powerfully impressed to examine the history of the Waldensian Bible. He felt certain that researches in this direction would demonstrate that the Italic New Testament, or the New Testament of those primitive Christians of northern Italy whose lineal descendants the Waldenses were, would turn out to be the received text. He says, quote, "The author perceived without any labor of inquiry that it derived its name from that diocese which has been termed the Italic, as contradistinguished from the Roman, rather. This is a supposition which receives a sufficient confirmation from the fact that the principal copies of that version have been preserved in that diocese, the metropolitan church of which was situated in Milan. The circumstance is at present mentioned, as the author thence formed a hope that some remains of the primitive Italic version might be found in the early translations made by the Waldenses, who were the lineal descendants of the Italic church and who have asserted their independence against the usurpations of the Church of Rome and have ever enjoyed the free use of the Scriptures. In the search to which these considerations have led the author, his fondest expectations have been fully realized. It has furnished him with abundant proof on that point to which his inquiry was chiefly directed, as it has supplied him with the unequivocal testimony of a truly apostolical branch of the primitive church that the celebrated text of the heavenly witnesses was adopted in the version which prevailed in the Latin church previously to the introduction of the modern Vulgate. And as I have tried to say here before, that, you had this apostasy, especially, it was already beginning before Constantine the Great became emperor of Rome, but especially after he became emperor, you had this compromise between Christianity and paganism, okay? The point I'm trying to make here is that there were definitely those who opposed this compromise, okay? And I suppose Rome even buries that, but there was an opposition to this compromise. The Catholics come from that part of Christianity which compromised with paganism. Catholicism is baptized paganism. But you had those who opposed this compromise, and they separated from the Church of Rome. Okay? They would have nothing to do with this apostasy. So naturally, they would have a pure Bible. There's no way in the world that they would have opposed this compromise if they had not had a pure Bible. And they saw what Constantine was doing. He was choosing this Bible, which was promoted by Eusebius, who loved Origen, who was a half-pagan and half-Christian. Really, if you're half-pagan and half-Christian, you're not Christian at all. You're just pagan. Okay? They opposed this Bible, and the Waldenses had a pure Bible. So where did the Vaudois, again I say is another name, is just a French name for Waldenses, where did this Vaudois church amid the rugged peaks of the Alps secure these uncorrupted manuscripts? In the silent watches of the night, along the lonely paths of Asia Minor, where robbers and wild beasts lurked, might have been seen the noble missionaries carrying manuscripts and verifying documents from the churches in Judea to encourage their struggling brethren under the iron heel of the papacy. The sacrificing labors of the Apostle Paul were bearing fruit. His wise plan to anchor the Gentile churches of Europe to the churches of Judea provided the channel of communication which defeated continually and finally the bewildering pressure of the papacy. Or, as the learned Scrivener has beautifully put it, quote, "Wide as is the region which separates Syria from Gaul, there must have been in very early times some remote communication by which the stream of Eastern testimony or tradition, like another Alpheus, rose up again with fresh strength to irrigate the regions of the distant West." Unquote. We have it now revealed how Constantine's Hexapla Bible was successfully met. A powerful chain of churches, few in number compared with the manifold congregations of an apostate Christianity, but enriched with the eternal conviction of truth and with able scholars, stretched from Palestine to Scotland. From Palestine to Scotland. If Rome in her own land was unable to beat down the testimony of apostolic scriptures, how could she hope in the Greek-speaking world of the distant and hostile East to maintain the supremacy of her Greek Bible? The scriptures of the Apostle John and his associates, the traditional text, the Textus Receptus. Again, I say the Textus Receptus is the ancestor of the King James. The Textus Receptus, if you please, arose from the place of humiliation forced on it by Origen's Bible in the hands of Constantine and became the received text of Greek Christianity. And when the Greek East for 1,000 years was completely shut off from the Latin West, the noble Waldenses in northern Italy still possessed in Latin the received text. To Christians preserving apostolic Christianity, the world owes the Bible. Let me repeat that. To Christians preserving apostolic Christianity, the world owes the Bible. Amen. It is not true, as the Roman Church claims, that she gave the Bible to the world. What she gave was an impure text, a text with thousands of verses so changed as to make way for her unscriptural doctrines. While upon those who possessed the veritable Word of God, she poured out through long centuries her stream of cruel persecution. Or, in the words of another writer, quote, "The Waldenses were among the first of the peoples of Europe to obtain a translation of the Holy Scriptures. Hundreds of years before the Reformation, they possessed the Bible in manuscript in their native tongue. They had the truth unadulterated, and this rendered them the special objects of hatred and persecution. Here, for 1,000 years, witnesses for the truth maintained the ancient faith. In a most wonderful manner, it, the Word of truth, was preserved uncorrupted through all the ages of darkness." And that's from the Great Controversy, pages 65, 66, and 69. The struggle against the Bible adopted by Constantine was won. But another warfare, another plan to deluge the Latin West with a corrupt Latin Bible was preparing. We hasten to see how the world was saved from Jerome and his Origenism. Note The two great families of Greek Bibles are well illustrated in the work of that outstanding scholar Erasmus. Before he gave to the Reformation the New Testament in Greek, he divided all Greek manuscripts into two classes: those which agreed with the received text and those who agreed with the Vaticanus manuscripts. So, just to show you here in this book, you won't be able to read it unless maybe the camera lady maybe zooms in or something, but that won't happen. Okay, but if you could see it, if you could zoom in, you would see this list. So you have you see two columns here. Okay, two columns, and the one on the left is the pure stream, the Apostles original. Okay, that's the first one. The first, it's the original. Apostles, then after that, the received text in the Greek, the Waldensian Bible in the italic, Erasmus, that is the received text restored, Luther's Bible in Dutch, French, Italian, etc., from the received text, and then Tyndale, his English 1535 from the received text, and then the King James in 1611 from the received text. And then on the other side, on the other column, this one here, right here, the apostates, corrupted originals. So these are corrupted originals. And then you have the Sinaiticus and Vaticanus Bible in the Greek, the Vulgate in the Latin, Church of Rome's Bible, Vaticanus in the Greek, and then the French, Spanish, and Italian, etc., from the Vulgate. The Rhymes, English, from the Vulgate, that's the Jesuit Bible of 1582. And the Oxford Movement, and then Westcott and Hort, B and Aleph, English Revised, 1881, and Dr. Philip Schaff, B and Aleph, American Revised in 1901. So, to end this chapter, the King James from the received text has been the Bible of the English-speaking world for 300 years. This has given the received text and the Bible translated from it into other tongues standing and authority. At the same time, it neutralized the dangers of the Catholic manuscripts and the Bibles into other tongues translated from them. There you have it. That's the end of this chapter. I hope that you followed me. I know, again, this was a lot of reading, but hopefully you were able to follow all of this and realize that there are indeed two streams of Bible, a pure and a corrupted version of the Bible. And you know, I also know that there are some people who watch some of these videos that aren't, I mean, they're either atheists or they are of some other religion that even professes Christianity, and I don't know why they would even watch a presentation like this, but hopefully there'll be some that will wake up. You know, it's only Jesus Christ that can save us. No other God can save us. And we cannot save ourselves. Anyway, a lot more could be said along those lines. I've said enough. If you agree with this presentation, then tap that like button at the bottom of this video so that it can be sent far and wide to those who are hungering for the bread of life. And if you have any comments or questions, we would highly encourage you to place them at the bottom of this video, and also to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. We thank you for joining us here at Jewels of Truth. We hope that you will have a good day in the Lord.